something just does not add up about the vote that we had on March 14th. And maybe, just maybe, the vote did not actually go through. Now, these numbers are very close, and a lot of this can be up for interpretation, because I will tell you right off the bat, we're gonna look at the institutional ownership of APE and AMC, but technically Q1 ended on March 31st. Hedge funds, institutional investors, they have to report puts and calls, but they would have already reported their positioning for Q1. So we don't necessarily know what the current positioning is from institutional investors. And it might make sense why you've seen around 132 million yes votes for AMC common stock on this proposal. If you voted yes for this reverse split and to authorize additional shares, but you also had a massive put position, then you might be still playing this arbitrage trade and standing to benefit immensely, even though you voted yes on dilution with your common stock. So I will give you guys that right off the bat, but we're going to dive into some of these numbers. Keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. I mean, I'm the last one you guys should listen to and wholeheartedly just believe everything that is said. From what I can gather here, this is what I'm going to present to you guys. But I think there's a silver lining to it, to all of this. And we'll talk about that towards the middle or end of this video. So let's just dive straight into it. And hit the like button if you want to spread this information, help to push this video out. Because I think it's pretty telling when Adam Aaron and other individuals come out and say this vote passed by an 87% margin. That's complete bullshit. That is completely the farthest thing from the truth. So, with the votes, so for the first proposal, the share increase proposal, you've seen 132 million yes votes from common stock, 47.3 million no votes from the common shareholders, which a lot of them would be us. 2.8 million holders abstained. For the apes, 530 million yes votes and 48 million no votes. Number one, I think it's kind of strange, let's be real here, that ape had more no votes than common stock. That doesn't make an ounce of sense to me. Granted, it's only by about 1 million, so it's like a 2% difference between the two, but that's the first red flag that really doesn't make any sense. But is that, something that is out of the norm that couldn't happen? No, that could happen. But the first thing that I find interesting about this is if you add 48 million plus 47 million, don't take into consideration the abstain and a 4.2 million holders abstained from this vote with the ape shares, you get to a total of about 95.5 million. That's a lot closer to 132 million. That would be, if we go ahead and divide the two, let's just round it off, 132 million. That would only be a 72% margin. That's getting close. That's getting down there. But what I actually find most interesting is that if you take a look at Fintel, per the latest round of filings for Q1, institutional ownership for AMC common stock sat at 134,056,985 shares. Let's round that to 134 million. Well, wait. How many AMC common shareholders voted yes to this reverse split? 132 million? That means only 2 million retail investors voted yes for this? 2 million. 47 million voted against this. Those are very weird numbers. You're trying to tell me every single institutional investor voted yes, and you, like, come on now. Seriously? For real? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. After all, they were being sued. Now, that's why I preferenced this video in the beginning, saying that maybe, just maybe, since we're not getting reported on current positioning for Q2, because remember, we're not in Q1 anymore, we're in Q2, that maybe from that period of March 31st till now, you've seen a lot of puts get placed on AMC that would make all the institutional investors vote yes to this. Maybe that is possible. Maybe. But that's unprovable until we're rolling into Q3. Then we'll get the reports for Q2. But aren't those numbers a little bit weird? Does that not strike anyone as odd? Now, the worst part about this is that you only really needed 57% of the eligible APE voting shares to vote yes, and this whole thing would have passed. That's all you needed. And you sure as shit got that. 530 million votes for this, 48 million against this from the APE shares. So if you add it up even, right, all of the institutional investors, this 132 million, let's say none of them wanted this to go through. Just for shits and giggles here. No common stock voted yes for this, as far as the shares that actually voted. So you're going to get roughly 179 million if you add these two together, all of the common stock votes. You even add the 48 million that were against it from the APE. Let's get you guys more of a precise number. 132 plus 47 plus 48. That's 227 million shares. It's not even close to that 530 million share number that voted yes with the APE shares. So there was literally no possible way, even if all institutional investors that owned AMC common stock voted no to this, it still wouldn't have worked. Because if you divide 227 divided by 530, rounding, right, 227 million divided by 530 million, just less zeros here, that would have only been 42% that voted no. There was no hope that this was ever going to get rejected. Adam Aaron knew that. AMC knew that. Come on now. This ain't Little League. They knew this wouldn't go through. And I think this is where it's interesting. Heading into court on April 27th. Because I think the judge realizes this. And I think she understands that there was no hope this was going to go through. Now, what if you throw doubt and question to this whole trade? Or in other words, what if 8 votes were not allowed in a round 2? Well, I think that would get a lot more interesting. Because I think you would see a lot more against votes from AMC common stockholders. Or what if institutional investors were not allowed to vote? I think that would give us a much clearer picture of this current situation. Because after all, in theory, less than 1%, well, around 1% of institutional investors, in theory, voted no to this. And I'm just using proposal number 1 because they all roughly look the same. The reverse split, you had 128 million yes votes from AMC common stockholders and 51 million no votes. 528 million yes votes from APE, 50 million no votes that came from APE. And if we go ahead and just refresh our memory here, There's 134 million institutional long shares in AMC common stock. Again, that would mean almost everyone that's an institutional investor voted yes for this. Now, I would argue at this point that institutional investors in AMC stock, AMC common stock, they also probably own all of their APE shares. That's probably a given. So really, if you own all of your APE, all of your AMC, it shouldn't matter all too much, at least with this reverse split, because you would be at the same place. Now, the share increase proposal is interesting for that matter. And I think this being higher just shows that there's a lot of institutional investors that are in AMC that have downside exposure that would profit if AMC stock did fall. Now, it looks like a lot of the additional common stockholders did not vote at all. Over 50% apparently of common stockholders did not vote. A little bit less than about 35% of APE holders did not vote as well. But when you match these numbers up, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look like a fair vote. Now, if you just consider what we said, all they needed was 57 million or 57% of outstanding APE shares to vote yes, and this would have passed even if everyone else voted no, right? The eligible common stockholders voted no. Well, look here. Millennial Management owns 49.5 million shares. Intera Capital owns 164 million shares. And ICS Opportunities owns 24.5 million shares. All in all, it's about 26% of the ownership of APE. So you really only needed roughly 31% of the APE holders that are not ultra large holders, right? That own less than 10% of the company, less than 5% of the company. You only needed 31% of those guys. Think smaller hedge funds, smaller institutions that are playing this trade. Could be large institutions still, but less than 10 and 5% owners, so they don't have to actually disclose, and it doesn't pop up right here on the top of this page. So you really didn't need that many holders on top of what you got here to vote yes. And this would have passed hands down, which it basically did. But it gets a lot closer. Point is, it gets a lot closer to not having passed if it wasn't for these APE shares, number one. That's an obvious. But you're going to tell me almost all institutional investors voted yes to this? Because they all voted. Come on now. If you're an institutional investor and you run a firm, you voted on this proposal. So almost every single one of them voted yes, less than 1% voted no? That doesn't make sense to me. Not in the least bit. So that's what I really wanted to point out here in this video. I just think the numbers, come on now. So heading into April 27th, I think a couple things are possible. Number one, I think it's off the table. This is the last court date. I think there will be another one. Now, I don't think investors expect that. I don't think institutional investors expect that. I don't think Intera Capital or Millennial Management or ICS Opportunities expect that. But that's what's going to happen. So number one, that's going to be bullish. But on top of that, when we get new information, when we get either another court date, we get a new vote, or this just flat out is not allowed to happen, which I don't really think is likely. I think ultimately it's probably going to happen. It's going to take some time. There's going to be a lot of doubt, and there's going to be a lot of bullishness in the meantime in AMC stock. At least in my personal opinion. I'm not a financial advisor. These numbers might just be weird because they're weird. Who knows? I think weird numbers mean something. My personal opinion. Now, the silver lining to this, and I think this is very important, if you are somebody that is waiting for this squeeze to happen, and you have been waiting for this squeeze to happen, number one, I think this court date getting delayed, or a revote, or something changing, no matter what it is bullish. Because I don't think the judge is just going to say, yeah, this was fair, do your settlement. For one, when does a settlement ever give you free shares if you're trying to do something that benefits shareholders? The whole thing doesn't make a lot of sense. So point being, I think you get a bullish reaction April 27th. I've been very clear on that. I'm not a financial advisor. Again, I don't know with certainty, right? As does anyone else. But I do strongly feel it's going to be bullish after April 27th. Now, if that causes shorts on a big degree to cover on their short positions or not, I think that largely depends on what happens. If there is a new vote based off common shareholders alone, that might get you to that point of squeezing. Very possible. If the judge said, yeah, this whole thing cannot happen, Allegheny County Pension Fund was right in the beginning, this was not fair, this cannot happen, then I think you will get shorts running to the door. I think that's probably the lowest likely outcome, but it is a possible outcome. And I think that would cause the squeeze. Now, the real silver lining here, I know you guys have been waiting for that, is even if this does go through, AMC stock has rallied every time they have raised capital. Now, this time around, they could raise a lot of capital. They could pay off all of their debt. They could do new initiatives, right? They could rebrand and restructure the business into different areas and do different things with that capital. I think that would also crush the heart of the short thesis. I think that's a given. So, bottom line here, I think April 27th, you could squeeze sooner rather than if you do have to go through the court process and maybe it's middle of summer, end of summer when AMC actually does raise capital. At that point, I would expect that to be very bullish as well and be along the same lines of able to give you a short squeeze. Maybe all of it's wrong. Maybe AMC just goes to zero at this point. Who knows? But I think this makes a whole lot of sense, at least from my perspective, on this situation. Now, the vote numbers, that don't make any sense to me. That's not what I'm talking about. But I do think either way, you do get a bullish reaction. One event is sooner, this court date, April 27th, if things go our way, you're going to get that bullish response sooner. If it's later, when AMC raises capital, then it's later. But in my opinion, either way, you eventually get a rally in AMC stock. As history has suggested, every time AMC raises capital, the stock does rally. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this video. Seriously, leave your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section on everything that we discussed here in this video. If I missed something, if I missed a key point, then we'll address that and give credit where it's due in another video. So definitely leave your comments down there in the comment section. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel on your way out if you have not already. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.